Hi there, and welcome to the fascinating world of organizational behavior. Today, specifically, we're going to be focusing on something called management styles or management modules. I'm Dr. Alan Bogard. In the studio with me this morning, we have two esteemed gentlemen. On my right, we have Patrick Cuneen as well as Nick Allen. Pat, why don't you take a moment or two just to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hello, I'm Pat Cuneen. For about 3 decades now, I've been working with helping select, develop and coach managers across 3 continents. Most recently, I've been working on text, helping individual contributors transition from their individual contributor roles to being managers and leaders in their organizations.
Awesome. Thank you, Pat. Nick.
Hello, Nick Allen. I'm a business coach with about 20 years experience of coaching. I work with a psychology background and a science background. I've worked across most industry sectors and pretty much worldwide.
Thank you so much, Nick. Gentlemen, we've all read the case study. It's a fascinating one about Kenneth Wilson, who's now come into this organization called Kaya Mobile Phones, and he's leading the team. He's inherited the team. He has a number of choices to make in terms of which management style to adopt. If I had to put the question to you, Patrick, in terms of management styles and adopting a particular stance or approach, what would be some of the things that you would consider when identifying an approach that you'd like to employ inside an organization?
Well, the first thing that strikes me about that, and the case in particular, is making sure that there is fit between the individual and the culture of the organization. Right off the bat, the thing that kind of leaps off the page at me is at least a questioning in my mind as to whether this individual and their background, their grooming over many years in the kind of organization they've been in, whether or not there is an absolutely perfect fit to the organization he is now joined.
Yes, very good. And in a moment, we're going to get into some of the specifics around what those approaches are. But I'd like to put a similar question to you, Nick. Coming into a new organization, what should the person be thinking about, taking into consideration before actually attempting to lead the team?
Well, with a sort of coach's perspective on that, I'd be really curious about why he's chosen to join this organisation. Right. What does he think his skill set is? Beyond his technical competence, he's obviously a strong technical capability in the training field. But why has he joined this organisation, and has he thought much about his own leadership style and the style or the culture of the organisation? And as he's embedding into an organisation, what are the sorts of signals that he's picking up about what works well in this organisation, you know, and has he got the self-awareness to kind of look at his own style and make some comparisons?
Very good. I think that it would serve him well to do that. It would certainly serve the team, the organisation, well to do that in terms of pitching himself correctly in an appropriate way that's actually going to make sense for all stakeholders. In the case study, you'll have noticed that reference is made of certain management styles or approaches, one of them being the classical. Pat, your thinking around classical management styles?
Well, I think a cornerstone of classical style is a command and control model.
Right.
The boss is the boss, and he simply issues instructions and he expects those instructions to be carried out. I think increasingly around the world that is less and less practiced. I think most organizations today recognize that people coming in, young, well-educated people coming into organizations, just don't want to be bossed about. They want some opportunities to express themselves, and that sounds like an organisation in this case. So it's not at all clear to me, other than perhaps in crisis situations where you clearly want a manager, you want someone to make firm, quick decisions about something, but only in that emergency. Apart from that, it's probably not the more appropriate approach.
Thank you very much. Pat, Nick, your thoughts on that?
Again, with a sort of coaching background, I take a positive view about this guy, about Kenneth, and he's been slightly painted into a corner of being the sort of command and control classical style where he's coming from. But the human relationships process or approach is about building relationships with people, and I think even in command and control styles, we end up building relationships with people, and we understand how important they are. So I suspect, and a coaching approach, and to help Kenneth bed into this organisation, maybe to explore with him relationships he has outside of work. I mean, is he command and control with his wife and children, for instance, assuming he has wife and children? Often not. Often we put on a set of styles because we think they're right for a set of circumstances. Yet we have another full suite of styles that we may use elsewhere, in the golf club, you know, with your children, your grandchildren, or socially. So I would look on the human relationship side to raise his awareness about the importance and the ability to create relationships with these new people. And then, you know, I think it's appropriate to use a human relationship style, and then to help him resource himself from where he does this stuff naturally and say, can you transfer some of those skills to this place? So it's always an appropriate approach, I think, the human relationship side. There are situations, even when, as Pat, you say, quick decision is needed, you can still make a quick decision within a set of healthy relationships that you attend to and care about.
Oh, that's very good. I'm going to come back to you in a moment because I'd like you to talk momentarily about the systems approach to management and to leading. But I'm going to come back to Pat for a moment. And Pat, you know, in terms of contingency leadership or a contingency approach to management, what are some of your thoughts in that respect?
Yeah, contingency is often been described as situational leadership. Expounded by General Carl Blanchard, which makes eminent sense to me. A manager, a supervisor coming in, or a team leader coming into an organisation, to be able to diagnose the dynamic of the team, what the team are good at, what needs to be done, where they need support. And even if you come into an organisation where you've just got 3 people, one person may have, you might be new to the organisation, be highly motivated, but not a lot of skill. Right. Then you'd expect the manager to provide a lot of coaching in that situation. The second person has got lots of skills, very well proven skills in that, but maybe not quite turned on in terms of doing the job. Then there's a different management style to be applied in that case. The third person, highly skilled, highly motivated, what do? You let them go and do it. You delegate and let them off. Very different styles, but appropriate to the diagnosis that you've carried out.
Very good. Thank you so much, Pat. Nick, the systems approach to management, what do you understand that to be? Elevate our thinking.
Well, it's paying attention to the interconnectedness of the whole system.
Right.
So, and the popular way of describing that is the butterfly wing and the hurricane in somewhere else. So, is there a need to pay attention to the whole system? I'm not sure from what we've learnt about this situation that we've got enough information about the culture of the organisation, the performance of the organisation overall, or the performance of this particular team, to hypothesise or to speculate whether or not he can learn something. The systems approach encourages us to keep an awareness wider than the immediate.
Right.
The here and now and the immediate.
Right.
But I don't think we're provided with enough information on this to say that a systems approach is the right approach to take necessarily.
Right. I like your thinking there, Nick, because, and certainly it's consuming in terms of time, because from what you're saying, it sounds like a system approach is trying to identify all those interdependencies and interconnectedness. And process mapping would certainly be a part of that. And, of course, that takes a lot of contribution and a lot of time to go through before arriving at a particular conclusion. Right, so essentially, you know, if you look at Kenneth Wilson coming in, he's young, he's excited, he has a lot of technical competence, he's moving into a team that is high-performing. And we've looked at the various options at his disposal. We've spoken very specifically about the classical style of management, about the human relations style. We've spoken briefly about the contingency style, as well as the system style. Now, those are solutions that, and those are options that Kenneth has at his disposal. Which of those now is the most appropriate? Your thinking, Nick?
Well, the contingency style encompasses most of the others, because the contingency style requires you to adapt your style to match the situation and the person that you're leading or managing, which makes logical sense. And within that, the other styles would therefore fit. So I think overall, a contingency style is the place to start. But I have faith in this guy. He's a high-performing professional. He's been successful elsewhere.
Right.
This is a great team. It would be foolish to kind of disrupt that too much. One would hope he'd have enough self-awareness. So I think the human relationships side comes into support very, very readily to the contingency side.
Good, thank you. Thank you, Nick. Pat?
Yeah, I would have to wholeheartedly agree with Nick. I think it is contingency. It really does all depend. And I think that would be the best approach. Having said that, I would certainly make sure that we are coaching him to make sure that on the human relations side,
right,
that he has a greater insight than perhaps he would have picked up in his past experience.
Certainly. I have to agree with you guys in terms of the contingency probably being the most relevant and offering him a degree of flexibility to embrace what the stakeholders require, what the situation requires, what the team requires, and in terms of his own style. Anything else that he would need to consider? I know that we've spoken about the different management styles. This is a real situation. This is Kenneth coming into a business. He has these options. We've agreed that the contingency style would be his best approach. If you were that young man coming into that business organization, what else should you be thinking about?
I think for me, the whole idea that what you want to capture is building commitment to what it is as a team you are trying to do. The old idea of getting compliance simply isn't enough. Building a sense of commitment, and you do that, but by approaching being flexible, that means approaching taking a contingency approach in that, making sure that there's a good, more enlightened human relations dimension to it. And I really do think that gives them the best chance and the most scope.
Very good.
And Pat, you touched at the very beginning on this case study about the fit between the corporate culture, the organisational culture, and the recruitment decision that has been made and the matching decision.
Absolutely.
I think we've taken things at face value in the case study, and that's the right way to do it. But I know from being a senior HR professional and your track record that there are a whole bunch of questions that you would want to get answered to really understand what's going on here. And I think that's quite interesting, to look at this and then to raise up and say, well, so what are the assumptions that have been made? Right. Do they want to shift their culture? Are they performing as high as perhaps they've got potential to perform? Might they need a bit more command and control because it's a bit of a party atmosphere? So there's a whole bunch of really interesting issues. Awesome. And him coming into this organisation, I would assume, given the nature of the way we've described the guy, he should have a degree of awareness about those things and be forming his own assumptions about that. So it's quite an interesting embedding process for this guy into this organisation.
Absolutely, there is, yeah. I was talking to a manager in relation to my new book, and one of the things he said is that he had a team that were working on a project. He came in, he was new to them, and they were working on a particular problem. He knew immediately what the answer was. But the hardest thing he ever did in his career was walk away and let them figure out their solution. Finally believing that in fact his solution implemented, enforced on them, would be less optimal than their solution implemented by them.
Very good.
Very good.
Well, there you have it. We have explored a number of options in terms of how Kenneth needs to go and lead this team. We've spoken about the various approaches, human relations, contingency, the systems, and as well as the classical. It seems that, according to the panel, the best way forward is actually to take the contingency approach and to leverage that, recognizing his personal style, what the stakeholders require, the nature of the people involved, the nature of the task to be achieved, and to kind of put that into a bundle to navigate the best way forward by continually striving for a high level of compliance, in the sense that you get malicious compliance, grudging compliance, formal compliance, but even better than that, striving for something called commitment. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.